watching WBNG TV Binghamton. From WBNG TV, this is Action News at 5.
We lost a good friend, we lost a brother, and he'll be sorely missed.
Members of the community say goodbye to a hometown hero. Plus,
but the people who experienced it, they can't. The pain will be there.
It's been 5 years since a tragedy shocked the Binghamton community. Today, we remember. And an update on a mass shooting in Fort Hood where an upstate native was one of the injured.
We've got dry skies across the Twin Tiers right now. You can see the live Doppler radar not picking up any precipitation at the moment, but this will be changing the farther we move into late tonight into the overnight hours as well. If you're headed out to the BMETS Stadium, if you haven't just left yet, bring along an umbrella just to be safe. I am watching and tracking some showers that are well west of the area right now, but I cannot rule them out. Potentially working in here through the ball game, that is. I'll have much more on your forecast coming up.
Good evening, I'm Brandy Bailey. Thanks for joining us. The viewing for a fallen Johnson City police officer David Smith is underway in Port Dickinson. Our Perry Russum is live on the scene with what the calling hours have been like so far.
Bernie, it's a very somber mood here at Chase Funeral Home in Port Dickinson. We've seen hundreds of people coming in and out here, all to pay their respects to Officer Dave Smith. Officer Smith was shot and killed on Monday outside of Southern Tier Imaging. We had the chance to talk to a few different JC police officers here before they went into the viewing. They said this has been a very difficult past few days for them, and that difficulty was visible this afternoon when the officers got to the funeral house. That was at about 2:30, and there was a lot of hugging and tears, but there's been a lot of support for this department that's been coming up and down the East Coast. There were even former JCPD police officers here from Cincinnati and Florida. They made the trip up for the viewing and the funeral. The family of Officer Smith and the fellow officers went in before the general public to pay their respects. That was at about 3:30, and at 4 o'clock, that's when the public was allowed to come in. The viewing here at Chase Funeral Home will go until about 7 o'clock tonight. Also here was Lieutenant Governor Robert Duffy, coming up on Action News at 5:30. Hear from him on what this day means for the people of New York. Live in Port Dickinson, Perry Russum, WBNG TV Action News.
Thank you, Perry. And those traveling in Johnson City tomorrow should be aware of road closures due to Officer Smith's funeral. Main Street from St. Charles Street to the Johnson City Arc at Floral Ave will be closed from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. Those using BC Transit should also expect delays. Stops on Main Street between Floral Avenue and Route 201 will be closed temporarily. The number 35 Binghamton Endicott bus line will detour and travel on Floral Avenue between Main Street in Binghamton and Route 201 in Johnson City. There will be no bus service for the number 17 Johnson line on Brockton Street, North Arc Street, and Main Street in Johnson City. 5 years ago today, 13 people were shot and killed at the American Civic Association by a local gunman. Now, families of those victims return to the ACA each year to honor their loved ones with a memorial service. Our Kelly McCarthy was there and tells us why 5 years feels just like yesterday.
Brandy, on April 3rd, 2009, 13 people were shot and killed inside the ACA. The gunman, Jiverly Wong, then killed himself. This morning, family and friends of victims came together to pay their respects and to honor the lives lost. Flowers piled on top of 2 benches built to honor the victims gunned down 5 years ago. The benches are engraved with the names of each victim and where they were from. Many of them came to Binghamton to escape civil war and violence, and their family members say they remember the tragedy as if it happened yesterday.
I think that's the biggest thing, because I think all of us would agree that it doesn't feel like 5 years.
At this time, it would be so nice to have her here at all these different turmoils that are taking place. Someone that would reassure someone that things will turn better, to be more optimistic.
Family members say they will continue to return to the ACA every year on April 3rd, even though reliving that day in history is painful. Coming together for support and remembrance carries a stronger bond. This Saturday, there will be a formal ceremony at the ACA Memorial Park at the corner of Clinton and Front Streets at 1 p.m. The ceremony is to dedicate the Memorial Park and to thank donors who made its construction possible.
Thank you, Kelly. Investigators are currently looking into what triggered an Iraq War veteran to go on a deadly shooting spree at the Fort Hood Army base in Texas. 3 people were killed, 16 others injured. We're learning more about the suspect in the deadly Fort Hood shooting rampage. 3 people were killed and again 16 others injured before the gunman took his own life. Investigators are trying to learn all they can about 34-year-old Ivan Lopez as they piece together what led to Wednesday's deadly shooting. The Iraq War veteran is accused of opening fire at the Army base, killing 3 people. The attack ended when an officer confronted him and he turned the gun on himself. Army officials say Lopez drove a truck in Iraq and was not in combat, but he was receiving medication for depression and anxiety, and just last month saw a psychiatrist at Fort Hood as part of an evaluation for post-traumatic stress disorder.
He had no indication that there was any sign of likely violence, either to himself or to others.
Army officials say a preliminary check of Lopez's background revealed no links to any extremist groups or no criminal records. 3 victims remain in critical condition, but doctors don't expect any more fatalities. And a major in the U.S. Army with ties to upstate New York is one of those injured in that tragic shooting. According to a CBS affiliate in Buffalo, Patrick Miller of Allegheny County had surgery Wednesday night. His current condition is unknown. Miller graduated from St. Bonaventure University in 2003. The University of Connecticut said a bomb threat was called into its admissions building this morning. The school sent out an alert that said the call came into a Tasker building. UConn said the threat was made around 9:30 a.m. People in that building were being told to evacuate. The school said at 9:50 a.m. that all faculty, staff, and students traveling to the campus were being told to stay off campus until further direction was provided. Students were being asked to shelter in place while police investigate the check UConn's alert website for updates. All classes were said to start at 12:30 p.m. and later were as scheduled. Now, as of noon, the Tasker building and a few nearby structures remained closed. The remainder of the campus was open. We're still working on more stories for Action News at 5 o'clock. A woman initially pronounced dead at the scene of an accident is alive and has a message for all drivers. Hear what that was at about 5:16. But still to come on Action News. We head back out to Port Dickinson where calling hours are underway for Officer Smith. Plus,
as I mentioned before, I'm watching some showers on the radar west of here. I'll talk more about those coming up in a few minutes. High temperatures today, 40s to low 50s. Much more on your forecast coming up.
Binghamton Mets.